The Las Vegas Raiders have their first preseason game tomorrow. We're going to talk about some of the players that you can expect to see play this Thursday for the Las Vegas Raiders. We just got word from the Jaguars that Trevor Lawrence will not be playing in this Thursday's game, so you could assume that the Raiders will follow suit. Even though Josh McDaniels has not made it clear on who will play, you can assume that none of the starters are going to play since the Raiders do have an extra preseason game this year. Now, who could we see first off for the Las Vegas Raiders? We're going to get into that in just a second, but remember to like this video if you're watching it right now and subscribe to the Raiders Rundown for more Raiders content. So, Tyron Johnson, number one, has been making a splash in training camp this year so far. You've heard reports that he's caught some really deep passes by Derek Carr, which is interesting to see him taking some reps with Derek Carr, even though it does appear he is a little bit lower on the depth chart. We've seen him in the past ball out with the Chargers, even made a really big play against Jonathan Abram in that game a couple years back. But Tyron Johnson has been pretty quiet since he's joined the Raiders last year in 2021. He joined midway through the season after being with the Jacksonville Jaguars for the 2021 season, and he did not receive one target by the Raiders in 2021. However, we did see him make some plays in special teams. Remember the final game of the regular season against the Chargers? Tyron Johnson forcing a fumble and celebrating prime time in Las Vegas. Nothing gets better than that. So it'll be interesting to see what this guy can do. He has a good 40-yard dash time for his height. He had a 4.41 40-yard dash at 6'1". That's very impressive stuff. So all eyes will be on Tyron Johnson, seeing if he could be that extra gadget player for the Raiders in 2022. Another player we have to talk about is Malcolm Koonce. He's the 2021 third-round pick number 80, straight out of Buffalo, has been called one of the best edge rushers in Buffalo since Khalil Mack. And Malcolm Koonce had a few opportunities last year, was able to make an appearance in some games in Kansas City when the Raiders were blown out. Malcolm Koonce still was able to make a play and sack Patrick Mahomes. And even though we're getting blown out that game, that's got to make you happy to see Patrick Mahomes on the floor as a Raiders fan. He also had his first sack of his career against the Washington football team last year in week 13. Impressive stuff for Malcolm Koonce, the rookie. And now that he's had a season under his belt, it'll be interesting to see what this guy does in year two. How big of a jump can Malcolm Koonce make to give us some extra depth when Max Crosby has to sit out a few plays, when Chandler Jones has to sit out a few plays? Right now, we know Clelin Ferrell left practice with an undisclosed injury, hasn't been practicing in the last few times that we've had practice at training camp. So maybe Malcolm Koonce has to be that next guy in line with the absence of Clelin Ferrell in the event that Chandler Jones and Max Crosby aren't ready to go. So hopefully he can make some big plays and really prove that he's made that second jump this year. Amik Robertson received some hype in minicamp when it was reported that he was taking some first team reps outside. We know the 2020 draft pick in the 4th round, pick 139, had an emotional response when he was picked by the Las Vegas Raiders in 2020.
We're gonna pull the trigger and make you a Las Vegas Raider. Congratulations, Amik. That's what I want to hear, man. We're gonna pull the trigger. Congratulations.
He was really disappointed in the fact that he had dropped so far. He was actually the highest graded cornerback in the 2020 draft according to PFF out of Louisiana Tech, but the fact that he did go to Louisiana Tech did hurt his draft stock. The fact that he is 5'9" and he had to have some recovery from an injury, which made it where he could not participate in the combine, and in 2020 there were no pro days. So he felt like that is why his draft stock dropped. But he was very emotional when he got that opportunity, and he's got a lot of passion. That is why the Raiders selected this guy. Even though he is undersized, even though he is an underdog, he has a lot of fight in him. And we haven't seen that really manifest itself in a regular season game. He was able to make an appearance last year in the Week 4 and Week 5 games, Week 4 against the Chargers and Week 5 against the Bears. He did give up a touchdown in each game, but he only allowed roughly 7 yards per reception, 4 receptions against the Chargers, 5 receptions against the Bears. Still able to show some promise for each coaching staff. Each coaching staff has considered him, high in the rotation during practice. Now, that could just be because he's there, but who knows, man? We've seen the Raiders be totally down to move on from players if they don't cut it, no matter how high they're drafted. Tanner Muse, we moved on from him even though he's a 3rd round pick. Lynn Bowden, we moved on from him even though he's a 3rd round pick. But Meek Robertson, 4th round pick, has stayed on the roster 2020, 2021, and now 2022 thus far. Therefore, I think a lot of coaching staff do believe there is some promise in Meek Robertson. Can the Louisiana Bulldog manifest it this year and make a splash in this preseason game? Keep in mind, in 2020, there was no preseason, so he was robbed of that. Only really had some preseason reps in 2021 along with some regular season reps. Hopefully, Meek Robertson could make a huge splash this upcoming year. And the last player we have to be excited to see is none other than the 4th round pick, Zamir White. If you've not seen the movie that Hotspot Audrey wrote on Zamir White, check it out here. Man, it is a lit movie. Seeing this guy, his journey to the NFL, everything that he's battled with in college, showing you that, man, this guy has to be mentally ready to handle the pressure in the NFL. And with Josh Jacobs' 5th-year option being declined and Kenyon Drake's contract expiring, it's pretty obvious that the Raiders are planning to use Zamir White in the future. So maybe he won't be the starter this year, but it's going to be really interesting to see how ready is he? Is he ready to be a starter in his rookie year? And if so, it might just fast track the process, allowing him to get some reps in the regular season, maybe even take the load off Josh Jacobs, take the load off Kenyon Drake, and who knows? We know the running back position is a position where people get hurt often. You gotta have a lot of running backs just in case. Zamir White will get his opportunity. He has just returned from practice after missing practice a few times. Did amazing with the Georgia Bulldogs last year. He's not an all-around back. He really had no receptions. You're not gonna see any passing targets to Zamir White. He's a straight-up runner, and I do believe Jarrett Stidham will be handing the ball off to him a lot. But on the flip side, if we do not see Zamir White that much in this game, even though he is healthy, must mean that Josh McDaniels and the Raiders offense has some plans for Zamir White in the regular season, and they don't want to waste him in the preseason, which means that the depth chart that we see at running back might be a little bit different in the minds of Josh McDaniels rather than what's on paper right now. So these will be some interesting preseason players to watch. We have a couple 4th round picks, 3rd round pick, and also an undrafted free agent. Keep in mind, we've seen a lot of players of the Raiders ball out in preseason and become stars on our team. Think about Max Crosby. When he first played in a preseason game, we never knew that at that moment that guy would be our franchise edge rusher, but he needed those preseason reps to really develop and show the coaching staff that he can do something special. Along with Nate Hobbs last year, he balled out in preseason and became our slot starting cornerback and might even just be the number 1 or number 2 cornerback on this team this year. So preseason is very important despite what a lot of people say, and that is why we will be live during the preseason game this Thursday doing play-by-play and instant reaction. So come hang out with us live 5 p.m. Pacific time at the preseason game on this channel. Turn on notifications so you do not miss it. Hey, let me know who you're excited to see in this upcoming preseason game as well. There's some honorable mentions that I'll mention right now, and that is the rookie D tackle Matthew Butler and also Neil Farrell Jr. Jonathan Hankins hasn't been participating on the PUP list along with Bilal Nichols. We do need some depth there at D tackle. We see Kyle Pecco and some other figures like Andrew Billings ahead of Matthew Butler and Neil Farrell Jr. on the depth chart at defensive tackle, and perhaps they could repeat history, ball out in preseason like players like Max Crosby, and then make a splash in the regular season. I'll be rooting for Matthew Butler and Neil Farrell Jr., our rookie defensive tackles. Hey, my name is WiFiWillie. Like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe to the Raiders Rundown for more Raiders content. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.